there's a lot of things that are rights that you have that you really can't assert, that if you try to assert them, you're going to wind up in more trouble than you were beforehand. And then there are rights that you must assert in order to protect yourself. So I'm going to try to go, I'm not going to give you bullshit about like, oh yeah, it's your rights or whatever. I'll tell you, if you do this, even though it's your right, the cops are going to do X or Y, because that's what's going to help.
Is this all about the police officers?
What's that?
Is this just about the police officers?
I mean, it could be about whatever
Because we were
questions.
trying to like told like your rent rights, you know, your rental rights.
I'm a criminal defense attorney, so my focus is in criminal defense. I can tell you a little bit about landlord-tenant law, but not as much as, say, like a tenants organizer would be able to tell you. And I got to give a caveat, especially since it's being recorded. I'm not currently anybody in this room's attorney, so nothing I say to you is legal advice. It's just advice from a friend. I can't represent people unless they come in through the courthouse. So I get assigned by law. Public defenders can only represent the clients that they're assigned to. So I'm not allowed to do any kind of legal practice outside of that. So this isn't legal practice.
No,
This is just
it's just
advice.
an idea on things. That's
Yeah.
all.
So that being said, at this point, it's. I'm going to tell you the truth. I've been in trouble already this past couple months for telling people things that they didn't want to hear at the courthouse. So if you have a question, I'll try to answer it as truthfully as possible. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to tell you, well, these are the principles that we abide by the law or whatever. It's like this is what's going to happen. So I'll try to do the tenant stuff, what limited information I have after I get through the kind of interaction with police. Okay. So first things is that when an officer walks up to you on the street, in some states you have the right to turn and walk away even if they tell you to stop. You don't have that right in Connecticut. If you walk away from a cop who you can tell is a cop who's telling you to stop, you can get charged with interfering with an officer, which is a misdemeanor. So unlike New York and New Jersey, where you have the absolute right not to respond to a police officer, you have to stop and follow directions if a cop approaches you. And you also have to show your ID if you have it on you, and identify yourself verbally if they ask who you are. So one of the things that a lot of people do, if you have like a warrant out or whatever, they'll give you a false name. That's worse than not doing anything, because that's a new crime. So if the one thing you have to say is who you are, and then you should say nothing else. So when a cop asks you who you are, you give them your name, because otherwise they're going to charge you with interfering. And then beyond that, the only thing you should say to them is, I need to talk to a lawyer. We're available, the public defenders, to come and talk to people who have not yet been arrested if you're being held or questioned. So I didn't bring any cards with me, which I should. My daughter was sick today, so I didn't go to the courthouse. You can stop by the public defender's office if you want to get cards. If you get stopped and you need a lawyer to come and interface with the police, the public defender can come and do that if you call our office and let them know. Another thing, like the one phone call or whatever, that's not like the cops. That's made up. That's television stuff.
They'll let you when they feel like letting you use it.
Yeah, or not at all, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. That's just like a thing they say on TV. So
you don't get a phone call?
you could, or you maybe not. It depends on how the cops are feeling.
If you're an asshole, you're probably not going to get a
Right. So first thing is that everybody, you've all heard the Miranda rights being read on television. The right to remain silent, the right to, an attorney to be appointed to you if you can't afford the whole thing. A lot of people are under kind of a misapprehension that if you don't get your Miranda rights read to you, that like the arrest is invalid. The Miranda rights, if you don't get that read to you, only means that later, if you made a confession or any kind of statement, that could potentially be thrown out of court because you weren't advised that you shouldn't have made that statement. It doesn't help you really any if you already know what you're doing, which is just to say, I just want to talk to a lawyer. So whether they read you your rights or not, that's all you said. I want to talk to a lawyer. One of the mistakes that people make is that they trust the cops. Don't. They're not there to help you. They're not there to find out what's going on. They're there to finish their paperwork and make an arrest. And if the easiest person to arrest is you, You're the one who's going to be arrested, regardless of whether you're the victim, you made the phone call, whatever. The cops cannot help you in 99.9% of situations. So, don't trust them and don't call them if you can help it. If you can find a way to deal with whatever's happening in the community, that's a better way to deal with it. Because once police get involved, then it's outside of your control, it's outside of everybody else who's involved's control. Doesn't matter what anybody in the situation wants, what the people in the courthouse want starts to matter. The prosecutors are going to take over. They're going to prosecute even if everybody says, oh no, there's no problem, we don't want anything. So if you can avoid calling the police, that's a good step before you even have to know your rights. Because whenever you interact with the police, there's a chance that you're going to get arrested. And even if it doesn't happen right then, it could happen 6 months down the line when they write a warrant and say, you know what, I think that thing that person said gives me probable cause to make an arrest. I don't know if Dare to Struggle has any kind of community self-defense or organizing going on, but that would be an area that if you're interested, I would talk to the people who are in your community about what that might look like. Whether that's, watching out for everybody else in the community so that you can solve problems without having to go to the police, because you don't want to have to rely on them. The only thing that the police really are out there to do is to make sure that empty buildings don't have people staying in them and businesses don't lose business. They protect the physical and real property in the city. They don't give a shit about anything else really. That's why they're always up, in the neighborhoods and not out in the suburbs, because the people in the suburbs deal with their problems themselves. For better or for worse. Usually for worse. So, when you're stopped by a cop who wants to know something, the only thing that you need to tell them is who you are. They ask you what you saw, you need to talk to a police officer. Don't tell them nothing. Don't tell them, I didn't see anything. Don't tell them something you think is going to help. If they find out that you lied to them, that's a crime. If you say nothing, it's not a crime. If you just say, no, I need to talk to a lawyer, you're not committing a crime. So that is the most critical thing. And the thing that I wish I could tell people before I saw them for the first time in the courthouse was, you shouldn't have said anything to the police. Once you say something out loud to a cop or in a courtroom, that gets written down, and then everybody's looking at it to see whether or not they can use that to get you later. Whether or not they can prove that that's a lie, or whatever it is. So that's one of the reasons why it's good to have a lawyer with you in court, is because what the lawyer says, that's not perceived to be a fact. That's just like argument that the lawyer is making. As a lawyer, I can, for you, say anything, and that can't be held against you as a trial, a piece of evidence. So that's one of the reasons that you want to talk through your lawyer to the court, if you can. You don't want to talk directly to a cop or to the court. Your lawyer can say basically anything, even if it's a lie. And in criminal defense, that's the lawyers by law are allowed to say things they know are true if it's part of the client's defense. Okay? So the one thing they can't do is put you on the stand to testify to something that they know you're going to lie. So if you were to tell me like, oh yeah, I did whatever, I'm going to get on the stand and lie about it, then I'd have to be like, I can't. I would have to not ask any questions, and the judge would know that means that I know you're lying. So, you're approached by a cop. What are your rights when the cop approaches you? First is to know whether or not the cop is arresting you, basically. Now, the cops will always tell you, oh, well, this isn't an arrest, it's just, I'm just asking you questions. If you don't feel like you can go, and they're asking you questions, that's an arrest, regardless of what they call it. It's, in the law, it's called custodial interrogation. Once that happens, they are required to read you your Miranda rights before you make any statements. So the question that you can ask them is, hey, can I leave? Because that will clarify. They're usually wearing those body cams now, which is good. And they're supposed to have them on whenever they're interacting with people. And they lose and destroy the video. But it's good that they exist, and when they do destroy the video, that we can make arguments that, like, oh, this is bullshit, don't tell me that you lost this or that there was a flood or whatever, and then sometimes we get some remedies in court. They're not always great remedies, sometimes it's like, okay, you can tell the jury they're allowed to believe that the cop destroyed it on purpose, but, it's better than nothing. So you want to protect yourself by making use of the body cam, which means when the cop stops you, you ask, can I go? Like, do I have to stay here? And that's making a record for you on their body cam. When they say, no, you can't go, that means you are under arrest. So anything you say from that point on, they have to Mirandize you for that to be admissible in court against you.
So if I ask to leave
That's good,
and they tell me no,
right.
even
Then
though they don't say I'm under arrest,
You're under
it's
arrest.
still
You're
considered
legally under
arrest.
arrest.
You're legally under arrest, not detained or
Correct.
whatever.
There's no difference between being detained and being arrested.
So
Okay.
they say like the next word should be whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they will actually try, they're trained to try to answer that in a way that doesn't say you can't leave.
Word salad.
Yeah, exactly, that's what it sounds like. They're like, well, why, don't you want to help me out?
Yeah.
Not really, can I go? Well, how about before you go, you do this? So they will try to dodge it.
So they ask a question, and if you answer that gives them reason to ask another question until they get the answer they want.
That's how they behave, but if
Yeah.
you then if you respond with, listen, I'm just gonna go and start to walk away, then they'll say, no, you can't go, if they really want to question you. So that,
So if they say no,
then,
I ask for a lawyer.
exactly.
Okay.
You say, I got nothing to say until I talk to a lawyer. I gotta talk to my lawyer. And you can say my lawyer, that scares them sometimes if they think you got somebody that you're gonna call up, and you will, because you'll have the card from the public defender's office, and I'll come down to the station and I'll tell them to put the fucking back on. If you're under investigation over a long period, it's not just something that happened off the brush, you can still talk to a public defender. Public defender can send what's called a started letter to the cops that says, don't talk to this person. They're represented. You talk to me if you want to talk to them. And usually when they call me, I say, we got nothing to say. Which is always the best move. Don't give them anything. Don't ever attempt to cooperate with a cop. The cop's not cooperating with you, they're using you. So, you have to identify yourself, but you should be able to leave. If you can't leave, then you ask for a lawyer. Those are the steps. You identify yourself when they ask, don't walk away from them, because they'll chase you down and they'll beat the shit out of you, and then they'll say, oh, well, I had to, they were resisting. Then you give your identification, and then you ask for a lawyer.
Do you have to give them your ID though?
In Connecticut, you must.
Because I thought it was a no ID state, like they had to have like reasonable suspicion. And...
It's not.
Oh.
Don't worry about whether or not they have the legal grounds to stop and talk to you. That's something for a lawyer to figure out.
Okay.
But they may have grounds to search your person. So if they have this what's called reasonable and articulable suspicion, that means they have something that they can say to a court that says, I think maybe a crime was going on, then they can pat you down to make sure that you're not armed so that they can talk to you. So that's the legal logic. But they'll do that and they'll say, oh, I felt something in their pocket and then I pulled it out and it was whatever. So if you're stopped, identify and then ask if you can go. If they start to pat you down, you're under arrest. That's it. They arrested you, basically. No different than.
Now, since everybody can smoke pot now, the new thing is that I smell marijuana, so I can search it.
If you're on the street, that's not sufficient grounds to search you. If you're in a car, they can search you because they'll say that they think that you're driving under the influence, and they'll search your car. Cars are totally separate. If you got issues where you're in a car, that's very complicated because of the way cars are treated differently under the law because they move around, so the cops have a much search the car. They'll take you out of the car, and then they'll tow the cars, and then inventory the car as part of their regular whatever, and then they'll just get the search warrant.
Just for the record, that was a question, I don't smoke pot. Even though I can if I want to.
So if you're not carrying an ID, you don't have to show them your ID, but you do have to say your name. And they'll run your name through their warrant database to see if they can pull you on anything, if you got some kind of active warrant somewhere. So another important thing is that your phone has a lot of information on it. If your phone is unlocked through your thumbprint or any fingerprint or your face, they can just do that. That's not considered a search. They can do that and unlock it. They can take your phone and hold it in front of your face and make it unlock. So what I do, and what everybody I know does, is I have a passcode on my phone, and I don't use biometrics to unlock my phone. Because it requires a search warrant to get a passcode. It doesn't require a search warrant to make you fingerprint unlock your phone.
I got both of them.
Let's see.
If they ask you to identify yourself and they go look you up, do you have to wait for them to do that?
If they tell you, you have to wait to do it. I mean, in reality, do you? Probably you can get, like, if it's a volatile situation where you're being identified, no, but they'll have your name, they'll know that you left, they can make that out to be interference. And if they do take you in, it doesn't help to go limp, it doesn't help to whatever, just like go with them if they take you in. All of that stuff is interfering, and they gin that up real easy into assault on a police officer, which is a felony. So, you know, don't tense, don't even, like, as anxious as you might be, don't move around if they take you in and handcuff you, because all it takes is for one of them to be like, oh, I got a little bump and now I feel hurt, and now you have a felony.
Well, but it's somebody like me, I have a lot of physical disabilities.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like put my arms behind my back type of thing, those things, I really, you know, shouldn't be.
Oh, no,
doing. And they're gonna take it and
they're
grip it behind there, you
Yeah,
know?
and they'll hurt you, and you may just have to, in that moment, be injured and try to recover from them afterwards. Because, you know, I have a client, she's diabetic, she had to move around, and they like basically tackled her because she was like, I can't stay in the car, I have to move, like, because you stopped me now for however long, and she like was bouncing her leg, and they were like, you better stop moving, and they tackled her when she stood up to stretch me. So, you know, it's like,
Well, that would be me. You're not doing exercises, nothing.
so you don't, other than going with them and identifying yourself, have to answer their questions. You don't have to physically do what they say to do, or else to stop and come with us. So if it's like, open this building or whatever, you don't have to do that. They can't come into your dwelling place without a warrant. So if you don't invite them into your house, they can't come in. Now, they still will try to do it. And usually what they'll try to do is get your consent by telling you that, you know, well, we're just gonna go back and get a warrant if you don't let us in. And then you say, okay, I'll see you when you have your warrant. Because if they were gonna go back and get a warrant, they wouldn't come with the fucking warrant first. But they, you know, they will also lie to you when they're talking to you. They'll tell you, listen, we don't want any trouble for you, we just need to know X or Y, and then later you get written up for charges. So, you know, there's ground rules. Don't open your mouth except to ask for a lawyer and to identify yourself. Those are the two things that you say to guys. Even when they're off duty, to be honest with you. So, just, car. I mean, do people have questions about cars? Is that a car search is something we need to get into because it's super complicated? All right, forget car searches. So, if they see from outside of your apartment or your house something that is illegal visibly by sight, then they're allowed to go in and get stuff, because now they're going to arrest you for having seen it. It's called a plain sight rule. There's a couple other exceptions where they're allowed to go into people's houses. They got a phone call that something violent was happening. They have this exigent circumstance of trying to prevent somebody from being hurt. If they have a warrant for you and they think you're going to destroy evidence in your house, they can go in after you. If they're in active pursuit of you and you go into your house and there's something in the house that they think is of evidentiary value that you're going to destroy, they can go in to try to prevent that from happening. But if they just roll up to your house and knock on the door and say, hey, can we talk? Then the answer is no. And there's nothing they can do about it unless they come back with a warrant. So, are there any questions on any of those things? Those are the basics about police. Oh, also record, if you can, what's happening. If you can surreptitiously turn on your phone recorder before you get approached, if you see them coming or whatever, that's good. It's good to have your own recording of what happened, because you know they lose their recordings all the time. Sometimes it'll start its midway through the conversation, or it's on the body cam, but there's no sound. So you know, it's.
So, they're coming towards me,
Yep.
and I don't want to answer, but I want to fuck with them anyway.
Sure.
Well, what I mean by that is I have this little tape recorder that says, you know, in a somewhat loud voice, these premises are being recorded on camera. And I press it every now and then to make sure the battery's up. So I can press that and let them know you're being recorded, my conversation. Okay.
It will make them angry.
Okay.
If they see that they're being recorded, they'll get pissed. And when they get pissed, cops are liable to be violent. So just be aware that if you start recording them and it's obvious and they know they're being recorded.
So you can record it secretly then?
Yeah, I would do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think that if your goal is to just protect yourself,
Yeah.
it's record secretly. If If you, for whatever reason, are like, go ahead, like, you know, tool me up or whatever, I'll have the last laugh, then yeah, you can show them that you're recording. But be aware that they're edgy around recording equipment. They are afraid they're all gonna get in trouble, so they get violent very quickly. In fact, they get violent very quickly, just as it is.
I mean, I do it and I want them vindictive, I'm like,
Right,
you know.
right, yeah.
Chinese food, I'm getting order number 5 and come out,
Right.
and now, you know,
Exactly.
well, he had an illegal egg roll, you know, I don't, you know, just something like that, you know, so they're people, I get that, they become vindictive. You know?
Right.
Okay.
So just to revisit the ID thing, I ask because a lot of people have told us like that they will be stopped, they'll show the cops their ID, and then they'll like run their record and see they have like some warrant for probably like an unpaid loitering ticket or something. But a lot of people have said to us like, oh, they shouldn't be allowed to check your ID unless you're suspicious of, or unless you're suspected to have committed a crime. So that's not true then?
That's not true.
Okay.
If they ask you to identify yourself, you're required to identify yourself. I'll be slightly more specific than that. It's a gray area in state law where there's no law that's directly on point, but there is case law that suggests that you have to identify yourself in most circumstances. And you don't want to be the person who's fighting the court to say, well, there wasn't X or Y circumstances, therefore this is the tiny little loophole in our state law. So you should just, if you've got a warrant, you should just know that it's gonna get served on you. There's I guess a slightly important thing to know. If you give a fake name, you're committing a misdemeanor. If you give someone else's name, who you know, like is a real person, you're committing a felony. So if you have to give a fake name, give a fake name. Don't give your brother's name, don't give your friend's name. Yeah.
So is there a difference between just like giving the name and giving like the physical ID?
If you have the ID and they ask for it, you're required to produce it. But if you're not carrying it, they can't make you look at it.
If somebody else's, don't pull it out.
Yeah. That's an easy way to get upcharged for no reason. There's no reason to get a felony impersonation charge just because you gave somebody else's name. So tenant stuff then. And while people can think of questions they have about criminal stuff, and we'll get back to it. Tenant stuff.
Okay, I filled out some paperwork. And when I filled out the paperwork, it was for a 2-bedroom, and it was for Section 8. And I got back saying that I selected the 2-bedroom, and then I was in the 10th position, and I gave them all my paperwork, and I moved into the first position. Now they're telling me that, 2-bedroom wasn't open, only one was.
So my understanding of the way the Section 8 works is that it is now a direct payment to the landlord by the state, essentially, by the federal government. So I think the landlord is able to determine which apartments are available.
Well, this is the housing authority.
Oh, well, that's something. I would go to, honestly, there's the legal aid people up the street. They deal with housing authority stuff all the time.
But they can't just all of a sudden change it. You tell me that, then no, we gotta do this. Because I had to take the 1-bedroom.
Sure.
Because I knew nowheres.
Right.
But like I said, keep telling them, I'll take it until 2-bedroom's available. And they're telling me 2-bedroom's not available. I'm like, oh shit, I know that they'll have a 2-bedroom.
I would be surprised if there were any kind of remedy that you could pursue that would get you the 2-bedroom. I think they could probably just tell you that's not.
Well, it's me and my son. We don't even give you the same goddamn room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, I hear you. I don't.
One of us is gonna be on the couch.
I can't think of a way that a state agency would be required to make sure that it's not.
But everything is 2-bedroom. Every single paperwork I filled out is 2-bedroom. Everything I got back is 2-bedroom.
Have you talked to legal aid up the street?
Not yet. I'm
Yeah,
gonna talk to Fair Housing, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah, good. Fair housing is a good place to start too. So there's also legal aid just up the street, across, it's like right next to Pepino's, basically.
CT Legal Services.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not from around here, so.
What town are you trying to get housing in?
Well, I'm here in the
Oh, you're here.
but I'm gonna be
Yeah,
in Bristol,
okay.
so.
Yeah, their legal services right up there, a block away from us, or 2 blocks. So they're also a good resource if fair housing isn't. Oh, fair housing is good too. Sure.
I'd be interested to hear about searching cars. and-
Okay, so cars are a special exception under the search rules because they move. And basically, if there's a traffic violation of any kind, the police now have authority to stop the car, make it go over. That's like your tail light is out. Up to and including like your tail light's not out, but they pull you over, break your tail light, and say your tail light was on. That's as easy as it is to get pulled over. So once they turn on their sound bar, their siren bar, you have to pull over. They come up to the car. Just having a traffic violation is not enough to take you out of the car. So if they have a suspicion that you're under the influence, then they can take you out of the car to do the sobriety tests. But if it's just a regular traffic violation and they can't see anything in the car that's immediately like contraband or a gun or something, even in, well, I guess if you can see the gun, it would be illegal. So you can't store your gun in your car just like floating around. It has to be, if you have a pistol permit, it has to be locked up. If you don't have a pistol permit and you have the gun, you're going to be in trouble. You do not need a pistol permit to have a long gun. You only need a pistol permit to have a pistol. But nobody, as far as I'm aware, in Connecticut will sell you a long gun unless you have a pistol permit. So you got to go to the state police and get your pistol permit. People are interested in how to do that. You can walk you through how to get your pistol permit. It's a pain in the ass. And state police control pistol permits in Connecticut, and they can cancel them for any reason, including just like, oh, you got pulled over once, permit's canceled. So, if they don't see anything that is obviously contraband, and they don't see a gun, then and you're not erratically leaving on the road, then they can't just pull you out of the car. They may try, but in a situation where the police are doing something illegal, what you should do is let them do the illegal thing. Don't give them consent to do anything. And say, I don't agree to this, but let them take you out of the car or whatever. Because the remedy for it is that sometime down the road, a lawyer's going to see it and be like, this was a bad stop, this was a bad search, you got to throw out all that.
Should you vocalize that you don't agree with what's happening, or should you
Just don't say yes when they say, if they say, can we search your car?
Yeah.
Say no. And then we'll say, all right, get out. And then we get out. So when asked, say no, and then just follow their instructions. It's worse to, yeah.
So when you get stopped, for whatever reason, you don't know why you stopped, you're legal and everything, they ask,
Yep.
would you mind stepping out of the car? So step out of the car when they ask? When you know you didn't do anything, right lane change, everything.
Honestly, I would, because what you risk is that they will, again, just get angry. And when they get angry, they very easily jump to being violent. I don't know if there's a lot of videos that people have online and stuff of just like, well, what did you pull me over for? And the cop will just continue to say, get out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the car. And then they'll draw their gun and like, it escalates. And, they take any kind of resistance as being like basically a threat to their life. So I would just get out of the car. If a cop told me to get out of the car, I would get out of the car. If they said, can I search the car? I'd say no.
Well, see, my thing is, I get out of the car, and all of a sudden, there's a pound of cocaine in my back seat.
Sure.
So that's what I'm worried about.
I mean, that
Drops
let's
in there.
be honest with.
If it's gonna happen, it's
they
gonna
do it.
happen.
They do it, and if they stopped you to do that, they're gonna do it to you, whether you get out of the car on your own or not. The question is, are they gonna pull you out of the car and throw you on the ground? So, that's one of the reasons why it's good to record when they come up, is if you comply and you're recording and they don't see your phone recording or whatever, and you can record what they're doing, then you're in a better position. But there's very little that you could do in the moment to fight a cop that's gonna plant something on you.
You basically don't shove your hands in your pockets either, right, when you come out of the car.
Yeah, keep your hands
Keep your
out.
hands out, down, calmly.
Mhm.
Don't be waving, getting them, because they'll get nervous.
Right. You want to treat them. They're like they're like a scared bull. They're big, they're strong, and anything you do that's fast, any movement that you make that might draw their attention, they're like, oh, I wanna fight, because they're
PTSD
prime.
stuff.
They're like they're prime. They're back in the police station, when they're getting trained, they're telling each other, like, these people are gonna try to kill you every minute of the day. You better be ready for somebody to come out with a knife. That fucking, the cop who killed, Suleiman, in New Haven, or West Haven, was just acquitted based off of, like, oh, I saw that he had something in his hand. So that's what they're always looking for, is they want to hurt somebody, and they're looking for a good reason.
And they
that
want to do it
can-
legally.
Right, so they can later say, oh, I was just protecting my partner. So,
So is a search warrant for a car like not needed?
they will never search, they'll never go search, they'll just search the car.
So, how much do you know about like, alcohol being in cars?
So that's not illegal in
Right.
Connecticut. You can have open containers in your car in Connecticut.
Okay.
If they see you drinking from it, that's a crime.
Okay.
And they're gonna say that you seem drunk if you haven't opened, even if it's just a Snapple bottle.
Right.
This is a true story. I had a case that was going to trial because the prosecutor's too fucking lazy to read it, where the cop's like, oh, it's got an open Crown Royal in the middle console, and I get the pictures. I'm like, this is a Snapple. Like, look at the pictures that they staged, and they used the wrong keys. That's not the keys to this car. This car's a keyless entry. So like the case gets dropped at the first day of evidence after we pick a jury, because they don't care. They're not looking to make a good case or whatever. They're just looking to fucking hurt people and
Put
make
your name in
it
the
worse.
paper and bears
Yeah.
you whatever they gotta do.
So what they're gonna say is they have this like stock language that they write every time they want to make a drunk driving list. It's like, oh, I approached, I could smell immediately the odor of an alcoholic beverage. I could see that they write glossy eyes because they're stupid and they don't know that it's glassy eyes.
Marijuana.
Well, they'll do that, and then they'll say all of the things like, oh, very drunk, very drunk, very drunk. No alcohol in the car. Person has blows a 0.00 on the Draeger, and then it's like, oh, well, they were smoking pot. Well, then what'd you say that you thought they were drunk for at the beginning? But they don't care. Breathalyzer. If you get pulled over, don't do the breathalyzer. Your license is going to get suspended because you don't do it. But the breathalyzer is per se evidence of drunk driving if you blow
You don't have
over
to
0.0.
do it?
Well, DMV will suspend your license if you refuse to do the breathalyzer, but you can say no. My
You can
advice
say
is to
no.
say no.
I'm making myself like I don't drive a lot. I don't. I'm a bartender that like I make drinks and then have to bring them because like I make cocktails and have to bring it to like a panel of people to try and stuff.
Mhm.
So I always have like jars of alcohol and like open bottles. I have like 3 open bottles in my car right now.
It's all legal.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
the
good.
one time I ever got pulled over, they were like, "A lot of alcohol in your car," and gave me a hard time about it.
Yeah,
And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a bartender," and they were like, "You can have this next to me." Okay, sorry. Do this.
Yeah, just say, hey, I don't want to talk to my lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying always refuse the breathalyzer?
I would refuse the breathalyzer, because otherwise they're going to make you. The breathalyzers don't work, so they're not accurate.
What if you have like, I have COPD and emphysema, so to do that.
You just wouldn't be able to do it. They would just write down, you were not able to do it.
So this
So
is
they-
try to do it.
Yeah.
'Cause
No,
I-
just tell them you have
that's really,
COPD.
really
They would
loud.
ask if you want to give a urine test thing. I mean, the urine, those are accurate if you're sure that you're clean, give the urine.
Do you think it's in like people's best interest if they have 0 alcohol in their system to still not go into the breathalyzer? Or do you think that if you're 100%
If you're 100% certain the thing is not going to turn up any alcohol, you might as well blow into it, because if it's that fucked up that it would return a result, then there's going to be some evidence somewhere that it didn't get tested and calibrated properly, because that's a huge, like, to go from 0 to 0.08 is a big thing. But to go from like 0.04 to 0.08, that's.
So even if you know that like if you drink a drink or 2, you know you're under the legal limit, don't
Don't
do
do
it
it.
because it could jump. And
I thought they could arrest you if you refused it.
They're going to arrest you anyway.
from what
The breathalyzer's in the police station, so you are under arrest by the time you're given the opportunity to blow the breathalyzer.
Oh, they don't do it.
It's a huge, like, the Ranger machines are like this big and they sit on a counter at the police station.
I thought they did blood tests. No.
They won't take blood. They'll do urine at the police station. If you go to the hospital for whatever reason, they can write a warrant for
If
you.
you're in a car accident, most likely you're gonna get it while you're at the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched a lawyer on like a podcast talking about don't go into the breathalyzer on the scene because even if you blow high when you get to the police station,
No,
you can't
you're
prove
too out
that it was
Yeah.
necessarily.
Well, so what they do at the police station, I don't don't know if this is useful information, but what they do at the police station is you blow once and then they wait 5 minutes and you blow again. And if it's going up, then they say, oh, well, then your blood alcohol level must have been lower at the time of the stop. And if it's going down, they say, well, it must have been higher at the time of the stop. So
What about if you're on medication, if you take medication?
there are medications that will return false results for lots of stuff in the urine. I don't think there are any that I can think of that would return a false result.
Now, what if, say, you've been on medication for 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, you'll have the record though. You'll be able to show right later on. Here's my prescription. This shows up as whatever. But you better be sure that that's what's showing up as whatever before you do that, because that makes people mad when you say, oh well, this will return a false result as fentanyl. And it's like, no. But yes, there's stuff that turns up. I mean, this is something to know too, is that like the OUI law in Connecticut, under the influence law, doesn't just cover alcohol, it covers literally everything, including medication that you've been prescribed. So if you take prescription medication that impairs your ability to drive, you will be charged with an OUI.
If my ability, I'm doing it so much.
Well,
I mean, over 10 years.
don't get pulled over, that's all.
I know, I never get pulled over.
But if you take a handful of sleeping pills and go to crash your car, they're gonna charge you with an OUI. Because you had sleeping pills in your system at the time that you were driving, so you're impaired.
Do you know what medications, is it like largely just like depressants?
What will return a false result, or what will actually affect your ability to drive?
So, my question is specific, because I'm, the only like controlled substance that I'm on is a form of heroin. And
That
it's,
has nothing to do with that.
so I was gonna say it's because I have narcolepsy, and I found that out because I fall asleep behind the wheel.
So usually the medication will say on the bottle, you can't operate heavy machinery when you take it. That's the kind of medication that you can't take while you're driving.
Well, mine says it's not to operate machinery.
Yeah, but you said they'll never know because you won't. So as long as you don't do anything erratic on the road, they won't have to pull you over.
Instead of pisses me off.
I've heard that the tests for THC will return a
Yeah,
positive result even if you smoked like a month ago.
Depends on the test. Hair test will. I think the urine tests are like a week, but they won't. If there's no pot in the car and they don't say that in the report that there's a pot smell, which by the time the test comes back they would have had to have said already, then they won't be able to say like, oh, they had THC in their urine, therefore they will whatever. They probably, if you blow a zero on the grader and there's nothing else in the car, they probably just say, oh, this was a bad stop, just so much go. Even if it has to come to court first, the prosecutor will look at it and say, no, there's nothing to do here.
I'm curious, like when it comes to like protesting and stuff, like I know like I've heard cases where like people, for like example like Cop City and Atlanta, Georgia, like they've been charged with like domestic terrorism for like.
That's never happened in Connecticut yet. So the question is, can you be charged under the RICO statutes in Connecticut with domestic terror for aiding in protests? That's never happened in Connecticut. I would find it very unlikely to happen in Connecticut. The reason that that's happening in Atlanta is because that's where the immediate and sharp contradictions are the sharpest, and that is where this is now a kind of a technical communist analysis, not a legal analysis, but that's where reaction is at its strongest, and where it can strangle hold its hands around the wheel, so to speak. It doesn't mean if they're successful with those RICO prosecutions in Georgia, they will spread, and there will be RICO prosecutions like that in other states. They probably will not come to Connecticut. It's very unlikely that they will come here. Connecticut doesn't have the appetite for doing that kind of stuff because most lawmakers consider themselves, even in the grand scheme of things, to be progressive, even if they're, the most reactionary group of Republicans or whatever, compared to the reactionaries in the South. They're not that reactionary because, I mean, I don't know if we want to embark on a whole theory discussion here, but because the South is the black belt is in the South, that's where reactions are strongest because it feels that it's under threat, so that it needs to, continually exert itself and flex its power. Here in the Northeast, that's much less necessary. That's why there's this divide in medical availability of different kinds of medical care in the Northeast. All medical care is still available, and it's actually creating kind of like a triage system where people are just like in the 70s, you know, where people were being moved into the Northeast to get rid of medical care they needed. That's now starting to happen here. And so I would not expect, I would be very surprised if there were a RICO prosecution like that here. If there were, like, I would be the first case, because I don't know, probably don't know this, I was suspended from my job for having an anti-Zionist newspaper in the waiting room in the Public Defender's office, so. But,
And if like you had protests and one of like your people got like arrested, like what would be like the process in Connecticut? Is the Connecticut Lawyers Guild number still a thing?
there's like 5
Okay.
lawyers in the Connecticut Lawyers Guild, and you're looking at one of them. So,
Good to know.
I was just gonna ask for anything like do's and don'ts for protesting.
totally different. So for protests, totally throw away everything that I just said to you. If you're going to a protest, it's a totally different analysis.
Okay.
First question at a protest is, what are you prepared to have happen to you?
Right.
And what is the purpose of the protest? If the purpose is not just, like, normally when I'm talking to a criminal defendant, I'm like, listen, the system is here, they're like trying to cut off your arms and legs, and all we want to do is get all your pieces out together. That's not the consideration of protest. You're going somewhere to cause trouble, so you have to be prepared to make certain judgments about how much trouble you're ready to be in and how long you can afford to be in trouble. So I give a different talk to protesters, and the first question I always ask is, what is the appetite of this group to be arrested and to be tried, and what do you want to do with this? Because you can use a trial as a political statement, but very few people are willing to do that.
Right.
So that's a question that you need to ask yourself. Another question you need to ask is, how exposed are you in your normal work life? For example, I'm a member of a profession that I will lose my license. So I can't be arrested at a protest because I will no longer be able to practice law and work behind the scenes like this. But there are people who can't, like, you know, if you are not a papered citizen, you can't be arrested at a protest because ICE will be there tomorrow to deport you. You know, that kind of stuff. You gotta be aware of what people's appetite is for being in trouble.
Do you know anything about like where the right to protest begins and ends, like what you can and can't do?
Under the Constitution, under the law, you basically don't have a right to protest. Your right to protest is like, you gotta go to the city hall, you gotta get a permit, you gotta stay in the lines, you can't make anybody mad, you can't take over the street, you can't get in front of any buildings, you can't cause disruption to regular business. And of course, all of that, if you were to do that, would not really be a protest at all. You need to cause economic damage in order for a protest to be heard.
Yes, you do.
So if someone was arrested, would the first thing you do just call a lawyer?
Yeah, immediately, first thing. As soon as you get the opportunity to call, that's why I'm saying go get public defender. If you're in the judicial district of New Britain, which is New Britain and Bristol and all the surrounding towns, call my office. Because even if you make too much money to have a public defender, at that point, before you're being arraigned, nobody's gonna take an application to see how much money you make. So call, and go get cards. Call the public defender's office, tell them you were arrested. I have been, before I got suspended, I was like kind of on rotation as the lawyer to call throughout the state if you were at an action and you were getting arrested. I don't know, like the leadership at Hartford is in flux right now. The commission that runs the public defender's office is maybe removing our chief. I don't know who's going to be in charge of the public defender's office. I don't know what the story is up there, but I don't know that I can be that person right now just because I got in trouble and I'm trying not to get in more. And I don't know what the political attitude of the Hartford office is. But public defenders can help you. Like I was the lawyer on call Yale Bowl disruption this year. So if you're going to do an action, I'd love to come and talk to you and like really, that would be a conversation that we would have recorded when we talk about more specific things. When you're organizing, you don't organize by text or email. If you do either of those things, stop right now. Organize. No, please. And there's a lot of people here, so organize by Signal or other end-to-end encrypted application, and for sure turn off your biometrics on your phone. Text messages, they don't even need a warning to get.
the signal you said is.
Signal's encrypted.
Presumably.
Signal's encrypted.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that, you know, like, if you were on the FBI watch list, they wouldn't just break the encryption because the signal was developed by the CIA, but, you know, whatever.
Was it?
Yeah, Signal and Tor, CIA, DARPA actually applications, so. But, for what it's worth, you know, businesses rely on encrypted software, so there's a countervailing demand not to break encryption, because it is useful for the business world and serves a material interest. So you can try to rely on that. The same like you might rely on, you know, statistics that businesses use, even though it was collected by, you know, a corporation or whatever. It's like they have to know what's correct, even if it's not the data that you would want. It's probably going to be pretty accurate. Same idea. Your signal is probably going to be pretty secure because private corporations rely on it.
Because it's at the end too, like there's no middleman reading it.
Correct.
Yeah.
When it's passed through the signal servers, it's encrypted. It's only at the phone that it gets decrypted. All right. Well, I wish I had gone to work so I could give cards out to you guys, but I'm Josh. You can get my card over at the Public Defender's office up the street. If you don't know where the courthouse is, it's at 20 Franklin. Be happy to give another talk or whatever, specifically about organizing, anything anybody's interested in. I work at USU too, online, if you guys are interested in kind of the mass paper. We do like coverage of a lot of local events, but go to unity-struggle-unity.com. You can check us out, or .org, I guess. Thanks for coming. I hope that this answers some questions for people.